we got is your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man getting
You just watched
grades.
episode 6, 7, and 8 of your friendly neighborhood
Reactions.
Spider-Man Duel with the Devil.
That's
Scorpion
getting pretty
Rising, and
good.
Tangled Web. And I feel confident in continuing to say that this show is very good. This feels like I'm watching an excellent Spider-Man movie. And I'm only saying that because we are in the end of Act 2. Right, the thing that ends episode 8 is clearly what's going to take us into Act 3. And if that's the case, that means we are in the everything goes wrong phase of this story. And I think that's the theme of these 3 episodes, is just things going badly. I want to look at all 3 of them. Spoiler
It's all gonna fall apart
these 3 episodes
before
episodes 9 and 10.
it gets great, I guess.
Assume some things based on how Spider-Man usually works, but I'm not going to try to guess future plot points or anything like that. All right, episode 6, Duel with the Devil. So it is hard to not come out of episode 6 most excited about
That Daredevil was tough.
Charlie Cox back as Daredevil in his season 1 Daredevil outfit, which I guess makes sense because Civil War comes out in 2015 and season 1 of Daredevil is 2015. So this is what Daredevil was wearing at the time. And I gotta say, this appearance in this fight is great. It just proves that, like, you could put Daredevil, Matt Murdock, Charlie Cox into any of these and he works. Put him in She-Hulk, you could put him in the Spider-Man movie as Matt Murdock.
Honestly, yeah.
Put him in here as Daredevil. I love the fight.
In every single one, he's been good.
The fact that Peter Parker is not a very good fighter, so someone like Daredevil who doesn't have
Peter's just starting,
Spider-Man, but is a good fighter, can beat him. I'm very, very excited for more Daredevil this year, and I'm happy that Charlie Cox gets to play this character in so many different settings. See, I feel like for me, that would be the cameo of the series, except there's another one coming in the next episode.
Bruh, yeah.
Easily more important to me. But let's look at Lonnie's arc over
when
the
that other cameo
episodes,
happened, that shit was
because his
crazy.
thing is just getting worse and worse and worse. And I know we've been talking about how this character is a tragic figure because we know, as Spider-Man fans, that this character, Lonnie Lincoln, is probably eventually going to be Tombstone, a character who is a villain in Spider-Man mythology, and to be fair, is not the most evil of Spider-Man villains. He's one of the gang-related villains, so sometimes he could be on the right side if he's fighting someone who's worse, but he's definitely not one of the Spider-Man villains that starts as a bad guy and then eventually moves on to being a good guy. So it stinks to see this happen to Lonnie. I will say, I can see the path forward here for him, taking over this gang, getting some sort of, you know, toxic chemical put on his body that gives him super
Nah, he's probably gonna go to Doc Ock so they could compete with the Scorpion.
Spider-Man has seen in this season, and how many pretty high-profile ones he's
that's honestly something I like. All the villains he's been fighting
and the Scorpion,
so
on
far.
top of others like Rhino and Chameleon, who was indirectly related to. The fact that Spider-Man's relationship with Tombstone is going to be the defining relationship in this character's first season, besides his relationship with Norman Osborn. But I'm sure you can make the case that the Tombstone one is more important because he is a character who is in like a morally gray area that makes Spider-Man difficult, especially because Norman Osborn is clearly a bad guy and we've finally gotten to see what he's up to, and it finally makes his path forward pretty clear. I was really worried about Pearl.
Well, I don't know, it was kind of like
episode 7, Scorpion Rising, because when she went to
he said he was tracking Doc Ock.
I was like, oh my god, I never even thought we were going to kill Pearl, but maybe we're going to kill Pearl. Luckily, that didn't happen. We got a little bit more from her. Apparently,
that was insane though.
She's kind of maybe flirting with Peter, which is interesting, which again, a lot of this
Peter finna clap.
Spider-Man Homecoming because
hey yo,
he is maybe making some inroads with this girl who's a little bit out of his league, or maybe not the right person for him.
Was that Pearl too? Her name?
Lonnie arc was good. Definitely not my favorite part of this week because everything else is tied for my favorite part of this week. Obviously, Daredevil is very high. Then we have Harry and Nico. These are 2 characters. Now, I remember last week when I was thinking about this relationship, just these 2 friends, I was like, maybe they'll be something.
They slowly becoming best friends.
They don't really seem to have very much in common besides knowing Peter. If anything, they'll be friends.
They're gonna ditch Peter eventually.
I love the idea that this is gonna be a pairing, especially because, like, the character of Harry, I feel like makes sense in a way that the character of Harry did in the original Spider-Man movies, where he was fine, but his dad was a jerk. And I think what's nice about this version of Harry is we're spending enough time with him before he gets pushed over the edge, or before his father does something terrible.
Yeah, that's what I like too.
To see why he's friends with Spider-Man. I think it's cool that we've got this component of social media. Harry is an influencer and he's famous, but that is only giving him more distance from everyone else. which makes it easier for someone like Peter or Nico to get close to him. I think it's really smart to make Harry the person that designs the Spider-Man suit. And yeah, Peter already kind of designed it, and they talked about the things that Harry's putting into
They
it.
got that
But
amazing
Harry's the character
Spider-Man
that makes
suit.
that happen. And then Nico, so much Nico. First of all, she's magic.
That
and
shit
she has
gonna be
magic
fire
powers
next
that activate
Wednesday.
when she runs 15 red lights in a row.
She didn't
just to
even know.
win a street race, which I think is cool. I like that they're kind of messes. I absolutely loved the cameo from what has to be the best cameo of the series, the Clev cameo. And this was Zach Cherry again, and he made that Lydia Beetlejuice joke, which I loved. I think it's so funny that they got
Where
Zach
there
Cherry
was a
back.
bigger one than
I
that,
need more
the
Clev.
Iron Man
I
one.
want a series where Clev just blogs about the stuff going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I can see that being very fun. But yeah, this Harry and Nico couple, I don't hate it. I think there's something here. There was a part of me that thought that Nico was into Harry, and maybe she was a little bit, but I think this is an interesting direction to take this relationship with these
That
guys.
shit looked like they
And I
were,
like that the flirting was cute. I think it's very funny that we've
yeah,
referenced
basically
Zaniac
flirting.
a second time in Marvel stuff in the last couple of years. First time was in Loki. It's a very weird character that neither incarnation has done very much with, besides the fact that it is an actor in a movie playing a character called Zaniac. But he's like possessed by Dormammu or something, and it's related to Jack the Ripper. It could be a fun character to actually do something with in the future, but just the fact that we're getting 2 Zaniac references is a lot. Speaking of references, one of the weirdest deep cuts, Norman Osborn this week had a fake Spider-Man dossier put together to trick General Ross, which I love. I think that's great. I like that Norman Osborn has figured all of this out, and it all more or less seems to be working. I think it is so funny
trying to get the
that
government
Norman
on his
Osborn
side.
using John Gallo as the Spider-Man stand-in, mostly because John Gallo is the alias of another character known as Ricochet, is a Spider-Man adjacent character, and it is one of the other characters known as the Slingers. They're all characters that took up a mantle that Spider-Man had taken up at one point and given up, like the Squire and Dusk. Ricochet was another one that Spider-Man was for a while. And this guy, John Gallo, who was a mutant who had like superhuman
Yeah, he
ability,
holding
or
that
something
secret
like that,
in.
became
He ain't
Ricochet.
snitching.
Positive about this, but I think there was like a push to make him a new Spider-Man and like a popular character, but he never really went anywhere. Funny to see Ross here, and obviously we're not going to get Harrison Ford in the cartoon. I kind of wish we got Harrison Ford in the cartoon though. And I like that finally we got a sense for what Norman Osborn's problem is going to be and how Norman Osborn is going to turn evil. Not that I think we needed that in terms of like, well, I guess they're not a bad Norman Osborn yet.
He wanted
but
Spider-Man
if we
to go
were gonna do that
deeper
this season,
and kill.
We had to get a little bit of it now.
Don't hold
so first
back.
of all, you have moments like in Civil War where he's saying that Spider-Man, you're not good enough. Although where Tony was like, the suit doesn't make the man, Norman Osborn's lesson is don't pull your punches. You could have beaten Scorpion if you decided to really kill that guy with a super spider punch.
The Spider-Man doesn't
that's
kill.
a bad guy thing. It's something that is kind of true. Maybe Peter does need to reach an
But
equilibrium.
he almost
But
died.
finally, besides neglecting his son, we have an actual villain trait for Norman. And then on top of that, he has spider blood. And now we can see where the future of this show is
man.
going to go. Season 2
That's
is
where the
probably
Green
going to
Goblin
be
thing
the
gonna come.
mutate season, where season 1 was the technology villain season. We're probably going to infuse Rhino with Rhino skin armor or something. Doc Connors is going to get lizarded, and that is all going to be because Norman Osborn wants to make his own Spider-Man who he can control in a way that like he's not able to control Peter, because Peter has too many heroic values and things that hold you back. Also absolutely loved, and one of the best moments of the series, like one of the things in the pitch meeting for the first season probably ended up on the board, was Norman Osborn saying,
"With great power comes great respect."
Also,
He
love how
switched
that
it up
music
on
kicked
them.
in as it changed from great power to great respect, and we got that bum villain tone. Just absolutely terrific. I said this last week, I will say it again, especially because I've seen him doing a lot of interviews, because Sing Sing is, getting some Oscar attention. Coleman Domingo, if he wants to, should be able to come into the MCU and play Norman Osborn. Like, there
Easy.
is no good reason why he should not do that. It's all up to him. And then we have the other side of the villain triangle. You have Octavius. Dr. Octopus, it seems like he's in a different show. He's in a goofy screwball comedy, and I love that for him. I think his scene where he's dancing around and beating up all the guys is great. His horrible haircut is great. I think
He
it's
was
fun
using
that
them
he's
science-
gamma radiation as a way to
them
tie
science
everything together,
devices
and as
to
a way
whoop that
kind of explain
ass.
why so many of these villains are green, although not all of them, I guess, but definitely Scorpion and Speed Demon. And I like that Otto and Norman do seem to have a relationship, and Norman does genuinely seem to want to stop Octavius. Maybe it's because Octavius knows some secret about Norman. that
Yeah, that's
Norman
probably
doesn't
what
want
it
getting out,
is.
but even if you take just what's going on at face value, everything Norman is doing and everything Spider-Man is doing to help him make complete sense. And I really like that Norman is maybe too focused on Octavius, and we're going to probably get a point in the future where Norman has to choose between saving Spider-Man or stopping Octavius, and he's going to choose the wrong one. But however, saving
Well, they already
Spider-Man,
stopped
apparently
him.
Norman Osborn just already has a
Iron
glider.
Man had to
There was
come.
a teeny tiny bit of it. Because when you hear a sound, you're like, oh, it's a glider. It's a teeny tiny bit. So it's like, oh, he's on that glider. Like skateboarding, basically. Not as Green Goblin, but just as a guy. But I think it being something that is controlled remotely makes more sense. And we got Iron Man in this episode. Again.
Yeah, that was
third
crazy.
best cameo of this week behind Daredevil and Clev. Iron Man, first of all, looks great. This is like a very simple suit. It's kind of a version of the suit from Endgame.
And I didn't think he was going to be inside the suit. I thought it was going to be one of his robots.
It is such a classic Iron Man outfit. Looks really good. This is like an Iron Man suit that I would love to see live action. Well, other things before we get to the last character I want to talk about. One thing I noticed, I love these intros that kind of look like thumbnails. But
Yeah, that's
corner
nice.
boxes and have the comic look to them. Each one of them being a different Spider-Man cover like you would see in a comic. I think they're great. Just visually cool and
They need to do more shit like this with other characters, like comic book shit.
In episode 8, I think
It'll
it's
be
the
nice.
only time in the MCU, and I know this show isn't in the MCU, but like the characters are kind of like the MCU ones. This is the only time we've ever seen Uncle Ben in this universe. And even looking at him, I'm like, I don't know what actor would play this guy. But I think showing him in this series is cool. I am glad that the show got opportunities to do things like that and took them. But then the other character that was a big part of this week is the Scorpion. You got a whole episode, Scorpion Rising. Oh, I get it, Scorpio Rising, that's cute. First of all, I think I mentioned that I wasn't sure if Michael Mando did the voice for Scorpion. He does not. This Scorpion is voiced by Jonathan Medina, who I don't really recognize from anything. But like good, fun performance. I got flashbacks to Madam Web when Scorpion started using the word Araña. And it makes sense. It means
Araña.
spider. So of course, a Spanish-speaking villain would use that word to talk to Spider-Man. However, I think Madam Web poisoned it. I don't think we can use that word anymore with Spider-Man stuff. I think the fighting with Scorpion, very cool. I don't understand why they don't give him the full armor outfit. I mean, maybe he's going to get it in the future. But I think they did a lot of creative things with Scorpion. First of all, love how the tail extends. Very cool detail.
He's
Love how it
probably
turns
gonna
into
get
a
whooped
shield
by
like gunfire.
Tombstone and
I
go
really
get
like
the
visual of
full
him
gear.
raising himself up on the tail. I think it's fun that he went into overdrive, which is a version of how Scorpion is usually a guy stuck in a big Scorpion suit, can't get out of it. And you know, I think he was pretty cool, pretty scary. He's killing kids. That hasn't happened really up
Yeah,
until
that was
this
crazy.
point. That line knife to a gunfight, very cool. I imagine because he is the Scorpion guy and he has a big Scorpion tattoo, he went to Octavius and was like, I would like to be Scorpion Man, please. And was so lucky that Octavius had Scorpion Man as like an option. Or did Octavius go, well, I can give you Octopus Arms Man? And Scorpion was like, I would like one of those, please, so I could be Scorpion Man. And Octavius was like, well, Scorpions also have many arms. It's like, no, I don't want to confuse the gimmick. Just give me one super cool, stretchy, evil arm that I will use as a Scorpion tail. And it worked. It was perfect for him. I am pretty impressed with how many Spider-Man villains we've managed to work into this first season, because originally it seemed like
Yeah,
Speed Demon,
that's nice.
and Butane, and Tarantula. We were going to get a lot of the...
I mean, with New York, bruh,
But by this point we have a Green Goblin.
there's a lot of
eventually,
shit going
Black
on.
Octopus, I'm assuming by the end of this season.
So
Scorpion now, a Rhino eventually. We have a Chameleon now who's just walking around in his chameleon outfit saying, oh, it's too much heat. I can't be caught looking like the guy that I am. Instead, I'm going to wear this big white thing that will do nothing but make people go, oh, that's somebody. Like, I don't know, man. Ski masks exist, but like, cool. You know, we have a lizard on the way, and we have a Tombstone.
that's gonna be
Really
interesting.
built up a
A
strong
woman
Spider-Man
lizard.
villain coalition. You could even maybe count the
Can't wait for
symbiotic
that.
alien as part of the Venom story, although that feels like it'll be a, I don't know, season 3 thing at this rate. Because like I said, I think season 2 is going to be the mutate season. Well, we'll get Lizard,
Yep.
Rhino, Kraven will probably come to hunt them, Morbius with bats, all the Spider-Man villains that are some guy
Gonna be the
with
Sinister
blood or
Six.
skin or whatever of an animal. And also, we're going to throw Goblin in there, too.
I
Maybe we'll
think
get the
Goblin
Start cloning Peter. I
maybe
don't know. We
season
got
3.
2 episodes left. It's a great show. It's a really, really, really good show.
How many? 2?
We got 2 episodes left.
Okay,
it's a great
cool.
show. It's a really, really, really good show. I don't want to say it's like the X-Men 97.
Nah, nowhere near,
Spider-Man,
but
because I think X-Men 97 was successful for a bunch of different reasons, but one of which was it captured the spirit of the original show, and it speed ran through like
Yeah.
15 X-Men stories. Whereas what Spider-Man is doing is capturing the spirit of Spider-Man, but doing something very new. And also it does feel like even though we're doing a bunch of little Spider-Man villains, it's taking its time and it's plotted like a very traditional movie would be plotted. This 3-act structure that's spread out over the course of 10 episodes. But either way, I think it's incredibly successful, and I think kids are going to love it. And I do think there will be a lot of kids growing up who are like 10 now, where this will be their definitive Spider-Man. And I hope we get like
And maybe.
4 or 5 seasons of it, enough to get into the parts of Spider-Man lore that are stupid. And I can't wait to see them. You know what else I can't wait for you to see? This video sponsor.
I mean, if it does good,
If you've never heard of it
hopefully.
before, Nebula is a subscription streaming.
But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.